as in Victory, N-E-R.
Thank you. Okay.
I'm Trish.
All right. Okay. And you just prefer to read a key.
Let's read the key.
Yes. That's for it. You guys ready? Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Kareem Hinton. I'm with the organization called Black Lives Matter Cleveland. And unfortunately, we are brought here today because of the murder of Arthur Keith by a CMHA police officer. Arthur Keith was an 18-year-old, a 19-year-old, and he was someone's son. He could have been my son and he could have been yours. He'd fallen asleep in a van when approached by law enforcement, and it was determined at that moment that his life did not matter any longer. CMHA police want us to accept that a young man pointed a firearm at an officer and did not fire, knowing that the officer would respond with lethal force. That this officer somehow felt that he was in danger, so he fired multiple shots into Arthur's back while he was fleeing. If they shot him because they saw a gun, we must keep in mind, in an open carry state like Ohio, seeing a gun is not grounds for shooting anyone. The family, first and foremost, deserves to know who it was that murdered Arthur. They need to know the history of that officer, and so does the public. The family and the public demand to see a video, if one exists. And if there isn't, the public needs to know why that the CMHA police are not being held to the same standard that Cleveland Division of Police are by them wearing body cams. This is the very reason that here in Cleveland and in other cities across America, that many of us rejected the trendy and empty gesture of politicians who wanted to paint Black Lives Matter murals on walls and on streets. We knew that that would not make police violence or systemic issues disappear. Frank Jackson, the mayor, he has failed us. City Council has failed us. The chief and the public safety director have failed us by not putting stricter mandates on agencies whom they give permission to police in our city. CMHA, like the Transit Police, Cleveland Clinic Police, and others, do not require officers to take the state mandated training, which is mandated for a reason. It's supposed to save lives. We demand more from them, many of whom will be running for elected office this upcoming year. We need more from them than just sending people to calm down the residents. We need them to take a proactive response and actually help to save some of these residents. We need for our politicians to launch investigations into this. We demand a thorough investigation and steps taken by our Cuyahoga County prosecutor, who also has a duty to stop law enforcement officers who are not current on their trainings, well, not current on the trainings aside from use of force and use of weapons. Arthur was a loving young man, and he was taken away from those that love him back. And so we ask that those in our local government, that they do more to protect the citizens than they have been doing, and stop these rogue agencies and the people that they employ that are impersonating law enforcement from occupying our streets. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Stanley Jackson, managing attorney at the Cochran Firm, Cleveland. I'm the attorney for Miss Rita Keith, who's the mother of Arthur Keith. Unfortunately, that young man this past Friday lost his life in a shooting that took place with a CMHA officer. We stand here before this building because we expect to get answers. The Cochran Firm and myself will continue our investigation, which we started last Saturday. What we've been able to ascertain from our investigation, the witnesses that we've interviewed, is that Mr. Keith did not pose an imminent danger to that officer. He attempted to run away from a situation that unfortunately cost him his life. There were a plethora of witnesses that were in the area, eyewitnesses, that say that Mr. Keith did not brandish or point a gun at that officer. From our investigation, we were able to determine that Mr. Keith unfortunately was shot in the back and not in the front, which meant that he was fleeing. We will continue to be relentless. We'll be unrelenting in our investigation. We ask anyone who may have information or video of this particular situation to call our office. You can reach us at 216-333-3333. This is a sad day in our community. We've already lost Desmond Franklin to a similar situation. Now we have an ancillary agency that doesn't have the same training that Cleveland Police have, even though their training is inadequate. We have another agency, once again, that is rogue, that is acting in a dangerous manner in our community. They're supposed to be protecting. And in this particular situation, Mr. Keith didn't pose a threat. We're terribly upset. We support this family. We will continue to be relentless, like I said, in pursuing the information in this case. But I want you to know right now that we're dispelling any rumors that were out there, that the CMHA police are incorrect in their statements. The people that we've interviewed, they have not interviewed and they haven't talked to, and these people were right there. They lived right there, literally. People who saw the entire incident. The people that they very well were upset and hoping that they wouldn't riot, these very people were the ones who said Mr. Keith exited the vehicle and attempted to run away. Mr. Keith did not point a gun. They were in arm's length of seeing the situation, and they immediately came to us and supported the statements that were made by others that were there, that Mr. Keith did not pose a threat, Mr. Keith did not brandish a gun, and Mr. Keith was attempting to run after being startled and awakened in a car while he was doing nothing but being there. This is unacceptable. We expect answers. Yes, there is video. We do not have that video. Of course, will we be able to get that video? We'll be relentless in getting that video. But as you can see right now, the family is looking for answers. They're hurt. Miss Keith is her middle-aged son. It's unacceptable. Here in Cleveland, we have to do better. After all that we've been through, after all the protests, after all the social injustice that we've seen, after all of the things that have been done in our community to try to bring us together, we now have to deal with this in a community that we all know should be better than this. So I implore anyone who may have information concerning this particular situation to come to us. You can call us once again at 216-333-3333, or you can call our national firm number, 1-800-THE-FIRM. I will tell you that we have 28 offices throughout the country, and all of our offices are on alert for this particular case. We are very upset, and we will, like I said, we will be relentless and unrelenting in our investigation in this case. We will find the answers. They can give them to us, but we will find. If they don't give them to us, we don't care. We will find them. Thank you.
We're good.
If you guys have any questions, we'll take a few questions.
What do you make of the police statements that he got out of the vehicle, aimed a gun at officers? Where does that come from?
Well, I'll tell you this. The reality is we know that they're not required to have the same training as Cleveland Police, right? But one thing they do is they prepare their officers to come up with general statements. I fear for my life. He was driving in my direction. Oh, he pointed a gun. He charged at me. I was in fear of my life. There was imminent danger. Those are catch-all words But the reality is there were a plethora of people that were there. I haven't counted at least 10 people who were there, who were literally there, that saw Mr. Keith exit the vehicle and attempt to run. And not one of those individuals who were there, who don't know Mr. Keith, they don't have a horse in this race, they're just people who are part of the community who witnessed it. And they all say Mr. Keith exited the vehicle and attempted to run. And as he was running away, he got shot several times and he hit the floor, he hit the ground.
Do any of those have any partial videos of the
As of right now, we do not have any videos. We know that there was a camera or 2 cameras that were in the area. We've requested access to those. We know that they have access to them immediately, and they haven't shared them. We've made the request. I'm sure you guys will make your request, but I think that video will show that our client, unfortunately, was running away when he was shot.
How do you feel about these annexed police agencies, Cleveland Clinic, CMHA, UH, CASE, and so forth, that patrol our inner city neighborhoods, but yet and still aren't held and are under MOU with the city of Cleveland, but aren't held to the same standards as the city of Cleveland police officers, like body camera, the same training, sensitivity training, cultural competency, and so forth?
I think it's vastly irresponsible for this agency to allow their officers to continue to operate without the proper training. I think in most of those situations, basically they're glorified security guards. They don't take on the same training. They don't have the same requirements, but yet and still they have the opportunity and the ability to take, as you can see, a life of someone that they're supposed to be protecting and serving.
The medical examiner won't say where in his body he was shot. Have you been able to perform your own autopsy?
No, we have not.
Is that something
as of yet?
Is that something that you're going to do?
We will.
The family talk a little bit about the impact this has had.
Are you okay to talk? No, at this time, Ms. Keith, this has been very difficult for her. Her son, who was a good kid, as you very well know, in these particular situations, you know, they always find a way to look at someone's history. This young man didn't have a history. He didn't pose a threat. And so, unfortunately, right now, with her losing her son, she's not able to talk, and understandably so. If we lost, you know, our child, we may not be able to speak. However, another family member will speak on her behalf.
What we want to say for the family and for others that have been through this situation, when you shoot and kill a child, you not only take that person alive, but you destroy a family. That bullet shattered our family. We lost someone that we loved, and it was no justification, and they're not being transparent. We're asking for transparency. We're asking for justice. We're asking for the truth. And if you're responsible, take the responsibility. Be accountable for what you do. Look into this community. How many of them have even reached out to the community because there were children out here when this happened? Are they sending counselors out to talk to these families? They are doing nothing for these families. If it happened to someone else, they would be out there talking to the parents and the children to show them that the police are there to help protect. They're not doing this here, and I want to know why. Why are they not doing that? Why are they not talking to our family? Arthur was a good kid. He did not deserve to be shot down like he was. And we want answers.
And what is your name?
My name is Patricia Givner.
You spell first and last one?
M-A-T-R-I-C-I-A. Last name is Givner, G-I-V-N-E-R. It's okay. It's okay. One step at a time. It's okay, baby. It's okay. It's okay.
No more questions.
Have you been able to determine what he was doing in that van and how long he had been in it?
What I do know that he had a right to be in the van,
Right.
and it doesn't matter what he was doing in the van, he wasn't posing a threat. And no matter what he was doing in the van, he didn't deserve to lose his life.
Do you believe he was sleeping though at been sleeping in it?
I don't care if he was playing hopscotch. I don't care if he was playing rap music as loud as he could. I don't care if he was in there smoking a cigarette or smoking something illegal. Whatever he was doing, it never should have cost him his life.
You guys have a van right there, a news van, and these cameras can be mistaken for any sort of assault rifle or anything of that nature, but the same treatment wouldn't be given to a white person as that young black man.
That's right.
And it's like we need to be shown the same respect and the same ability of just giving us the benefit of the doubt. There's always a doubt instead of a benefit.
For the black man.
Do you believe this was a shoot first, ask questions later?
Most definitely it was a shoot first, ask questions later. The reality is that what we hear from the officer is that he approached the car and there's conflicting statements. There's one where the officer says he just opened the door. That the officer opened the door, the officer engaged. From my understanding, from the information we have, there wasn't a plethora of officers there around. Normally in that particular situation, if you think that that's a dangerous situation, you may call for backup, right?
That's right.
And have other officers there so you can secure the scene. So, and as the person's running away, Mr. Keith is running away, what threat is he posing to you as he's running away? So I think this is a perfect example of an ancillary agency with poorly trained officers. I mean, to be frankly honest with you, we know our Cleveland officers are poorly trained because we have a consent decree that they're not even adhering to. And so now you have an inferior agency that are allowing their officers to walk around with guns and to, once again, put our lives in danger, but more importantly, take a life that they should have never taken.
Do you believe the statement that a gun was found at the scene?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Do you believe the statement by police that they recovered a gun at the scene there?
We're not sure of that yet. My understanding is that there's conflicting statements about that. So we don't know any of that information as of yet. We do know from witnesses that were there, that were within arm's length, that saw it happen, that Mr. Keith exited the vehicle and attempted to run away, that he did not brandish a gun. They were close enough to see if he would have pointed a gun. And our understanding, ballistically, is that if someone points a gun and you're already ready and you're assuming that this is going to be a dangerous encounter, that you might shoot into the vehicle or you might have shot him before he could run away. And my understanding from at least the information that we have is that he was shot in the back, which meant that he was running away.
And he did not have a gun, as far as your witnesses are telling you, at the time his back is turned to officers or anything
What
like
I'm saying is that the witnesses we have don't say that they've seen him with a gun.
And they saw this entire encounter from the beginning.
Yes.
Could you talk a little bit about getting the video off that camera it's on the corner of the CMHA building right by where it happened? Is that something that would have to require a court case to get? How do you get that video?
We'll get the video.
How is that done?
We'll get the video.
And if the city was transparent, they would release the video.
But more importantly, if the city was transparent, we know that the Cleveland police are actually doing the investigation. At this moment, we don't want the Cleveland police to do the investigation. We want the Attorney General to take over the case. We think that would be appropriate. Much like the Desmond Franklin case, we don't believe that Cleveland police officers who are associated and particularly use officers back and forth and work together, they're more like colleagues. We don't believe that they can do a proper investigation. Any further questions?
How concerned should the community be with this sort of activity by law enforcement in the city?
They should be very concerned. The reality is that we've seen these type of incidents happen all over the country. We've had protests. We've seen, unfortunately, Desmond Franklin die at the hands of an officer 7 months ago. We've seen the outrage of the community. You would think they would be a little more cautious. You would think they would start doing training to make sure that these officers aren't doing these type of things. But to be frankly honest with you, obviously it's business as usual. And so you can't keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. We're not going to do the same thing and expect a different result. So you will see some very drastic and different things happen throughout the community, positive things that will look to try to change what we're facing here. The reality is that a young man sleeping in a car should not have to lose his life.
How do you feel about the lack thereof input or lack thereof a voice or any sort of acknowledgement coming from City Hall in regards to this incident here, but also the recent surge and uptick in violence across the inner city or the southeast side of Cleveland, but yet and still the actions that they took to rectify the issue that happened downtown when businesses were being affected, they took a totally different action. We're very vocal on that, but when it comes to Black Lives, they're silent.
Well, ironically, on the way here, I was listening to the radio and I heard an ad advertising that the Cleveland police were looking for new candidates. And I thought that was kind of comical considering the fact that the ones that we do have that have been on the force apparently aren't well equipped to deal with our community. But to really answer your question, yes, it's obvious that unfortunately our community, our police are more concerned with protecting our businesses than protecting our people. And I will tell you this, the Cochran Firm is in the business of people. And so we will be here to protect our people.
Good. All right, we're good.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I think the key right now is that for black people, they're targeted by the police across the country.
That's a question or a statement?
I guess both.
Okay. The reality is that we've been a target since we entered this country. Unfortunately, I think we've got to have these tough conversations. I think that our leaders, who are supposed to be our leaders, need to step up, and if they do not, much as you've seen in the national election, you'll see things change in the local election. Once again, I will tell you, Cochran Firm is in the business of people. We will continue to do what we're supposed to do, and I guarantee you will see change. Thank you.